side 208.7 feet long of an acre set out as a square. The geodetic acre and the formal yard obviously represent different systems, for although they are related by the characteristic pyramid number 4840, which is the number of the square yards in an acre, the side or circumference of an acre, whether it is expressed as a square or as a circle, in no case consists of a whole number of yards, feet, or inches. The existence of these units, and of others all over the world, also of geodetic origin, provides indisputable evidence of a former scientific civilization, to which Plato referred in his account of Atlantis. Histories relating to the former world were preserved in the archives of Egyptian temples, and even today there may still be some in existence elsewhere. The oral tradition was inherited by the scholars of classical Greece, and passed down an unbroken line of initiates at least as far as medieval times. But it was the sacred or formal branch of ancient cosmology that survived, rather than the exact science which had produced units such as the acre and digit.
This view of a scheme of sacred engineering belongs to John Michell, a Cambridge scholar whose book The View Over Atlantis describes the landmarks of a forgotten country, the landscape of the Golden Age. John Michell spoke with us at his home in Bath, England.
As to the physical evidence for Atlantis, it does seem that there have been developed universal civilizations in the past. The evidence points to that. The evidence of ancient monuments, the universal discovery of units of measure, the universal themes of myth and sacred history, and the traces of universal science and philosophy, which are found all over the world. Most convincing, I think, on the physical level, is the discovery of an identical system of units of measure from Japan to Britain and America. The ancients had units of measure which were based on both the human body and on astronomical distances. The Egyptian, the Greek, and indeed the present British units of measure are related to each other and indicate advanced knowledge of the dimensions of the solar system existing in remote antiquity, because these units are based on significant multiples of such astronomical distances as the Earth's circumference and diameter and those of the Moon and Sun. We find all over the world that ancient monuments, stone monuments, although locally differing, are arranged on similar principles. They appear to be arranged in relation to the natural currents of the Earth in some way, as affected by astronomical considerations. That is, we find wherever there's ancient temples on all continents, that they are arranged in a certain way in relation to the landscape and in relation to astronomical events. And these everywhere are expressed in the nature of the god to which the temple is dedicated. So we find in Britain stone circles and alignments of stones in ancient sites, some of which have since become Christian sites, arranged in a scientific manner relating to natural phenomena, to the landscape, and to the heavenly bodies.
All over the surface of the earth are found traces of a gigantic work of prehistoric engineering whose meaning has never been explained. Despite their great size and the precise nature of their construction, it has generally been assumed that the monumental ruins of antiquity were built for some indefinable purpose connected with ritual and superstition. Yet the latest evidence indicates that this was by no means the case. The pyramids of Egypt, Stonehenge, the enigmatic structures of earth and stone that stand in lines all around the world were the instruments of a highly evolved system of natural science, once of universal application. Some forgotten principle involving the act of alchemical fusion between the forces of solar radiation and the terrestrial current determined both their proportions and their geographical location for all prehistoric structures were sited and laid out according to a single scheme and for an identical purpose, conceived in and radiating from Atlantis. From a study of these monuments and of the magic science of their builders, certain conclusions have been reached, which accord to a remarkable extent with the insights obtained by mystics and time travelers, and also with the evidence of mythology, folklore, and the occult tradition. It appears from the assembled evidence that we are now approaching some imminent revelation from the lost world of Atlantis, the effects of which will be truly revolutionary.
My name is Christopher Mark Buxton, and I'm a sociologist by trade, and an amateur researcher into antiquity and into the lost knowledge which is spread so much over the continents of the world. It seems that throughout the world there are many manifestations of an old knowledge which we do not understand. Is it possible that it came from one particular source? In each of the continents, the pattern of development of these buildings, of these structures, is of a different nature. In England we have the standing stones, stone circles, stone alignments. In Europe also we have several stone circles, the best one being at Karnak in Brittany. In Egypt we have the pyramids, which are built on an ideal part of the land, built on a delta which is in itself like an inverted pyramid. In Peru we have huge markings over the countryside, and in USA mounds, small stone circles, and serpent hills. Anthony Roberts wrote a complete book called Atlantean Traditions in Great Britain, in which he traced this knowledge all over England, Wales and Scotland, and showed how it was manifested in the mythology of the different parts of the country, how each stone circle had its own legend, how each of these legends appeared to tie up all the way through, how in many cases the stone circle had 4 different stories attached to it, and each of these stone circles would have the same stories. So it seems that one isn't really dealing with different tribes building different monuments. One is dealing with a travelling knowledge, a spreading wisdom, which enabled each of the people, each of the tribes in the area, to build circles, monuments, with a complete understanding of what they were doing.
The ancients built better than we knew. It's confirmed from yet another quarter by Dr. Manson Valentine, not far from the famous underwater Bimini ruins he discovered in 1969.
Well, since some of these very large stones are propped up by smaller ones, they resemble, superficially at least, the dolmens that the ancient people, yes, the megalithic dolmens which occur on the coast of Brittany and Ireland and other places in the Mediterranean area. They also occur in the Amazon Valley.
Have you seen them in the Amazon Valley?
Yes, I've seen dolmens in the Andes that similar to these we're talking about, and I've of course seen pictures of others that are absolutely enormous and are in the not in the jungle area but in the savanna lands north of the Amazon. I'm sure that metaphysics enters into this a great deal, because the ancient people know a great deal about it, and these were symbolic workings. They were it was